Hi there. I just wanted to add something to the last video. I made some comments at the end. I don't know how many of you actually watched these videos all the way through to the end. Usually I make the most important points at the end. I had made an important point at the end about the use of, or the dangers of using blocking I/O operations in what they call a user mode, or in user space, or in a more specifically from within a user thread. And I gave a drastic example of the bank, some bank software where the system hangs, and or it might be in the middle of an important transaction, and the system, the transaction system's interface, not necessarily the system, hangs. Okay, and I'm taking it because I've kind of worked with this multi-threading stuff before. I take it for granted, sort of automatically, that some of the things that I shouldn't take for granted, which is that you may be assuming that I'm talking about that the process of that transaction that fictitious transaction I was referring to would be hung. That's not what I was referring to. I'm referring to anything, any process, any thread, that is mapped within the process can hang in that fashion. Can hang the user interface in that similar fashion. Somebody, some DLL, let's say, that ends up loaded into that address space could be executing some totally meaningless IRQ chat call request, right? Which enters a blocking read state over the internet because somebody wants to find out about what happened at last night's drinking brawl, right? Meanwhile, the $1 million transaction may have or may not have completed, and there's no way to find out. And yet you don't want to terminate the program because in doing so, you might be terminating the transaction or canceling something that might be important to complete. One of the things that bothers me, and I'm not sure how to fix it, is this sort of thing. Now I have to probably run this as a super user. One of the things that bothers me is when running a program a lot of things. A lot of things that are installed on the system, programs and systems and drivers and whatnot that are installed on the system that are sometimes totally useless, get mapped into your program, and they might be doing hazardous things like that. Like, what can I run here? Suppose I run my little blue box. Okay, now maybe I shouldn't run it under the debugger. Well, I'll try one and another. And I don't even know why I have this thing installed in my system anyway. I don't even use what I'm going to show you. Okay, here's that little program. Let's see. Image. Not happening with this? It's got to be. How do I see it? I'm just going to, I want to see that there's a bunch of stuff that's mapped into the address space of the program, and I want to look at it. Not depends. View. Oh, okay. This looks good. Okay. Now all of these, and I dumped them out myself too. Okay, that's why I'm aware of them in the first place. For instance, as soon as that little window started up, okay, this thing got loaded into memory. Something called Bluetooth, etc., which may depend on other things, which may depend on other things, and so on and so forth. Here it is again. Okay, Bluetooth monitor hook. And there are all these things in here. Which I'm not sure if I really need them all mapped into my address space. They don't seem to be doing anything. But when I'm, threads again. There's the one user thread, but what about others? There ought to be more than. There ought to be other threads running in here in the kernel, and I want to look at those. Doesn't seem to say. But anyway, all of this stuff here that I'm sure I don't need. Why do I have something called Bluetooth key? Look, this looks like a keyboard hook. No, multimedia keys hook. Why do I need that in my program? I don't want that. But yet it's going to get in there. And I didn't ask for it. If you look at Developer Studio, it's a huge mess. Threads, first threads. Okay. Now, look at all the stuff in here. some of it has to do with the actual program itself, but I bet a lot of it doesn't. People are like, what's this MSO make custom item? Well, actually, in this particular case, it looks not that bad. In the case that came up when I had a hang, there was maybe 2 or 3 times as many of these threads in here, and a lot of them had that Bluetooth something in front of them, and there were some that had GDI plus and stuff in here. Okay. And this might be all intentional, and it doesn't actually look that bad. But somehow other stuff gets in there. Yeah, I don't know how exactly. But anyway, my whole point of that was, I guess I didn't manage to find a good example, is that I just take it for granted that you're familiar with multi-threading, and you're probably not. And the disaster of the interface hanging that I was thinking of was something I was imagining that had nothing to do. It could have easily had nothing to do with what was going on with the actual program. Just a programming mistake, right? Causes a thread to enter into one of these kernel mode blocking states, right? And it could be over any reason whatsoever. Like I said, somebody's just chit-chatting or something and waiting for a response from their pal. And meanwhile, the whole system crashes. Not crashes, hangs. The user part hangs, right? Other kernel threads will continue to run in their normal way, right? So any important stuff that was going on at the time would continue to go on. Now you may not be able to initiate any new transactions at that point, but the problem is deciding when to pull the plug, right? Because you're going to have to pull the plug. And there's no way for you to use the interface to check to see what's finished and what's pending. So I thought I'd just make that addition at the end. Okay.